Update 10 for Elite Dangerous contains a bunch of fixes and optimisations. It's also live and available to download now for you to try out. Keep in mind that this update doesn't contain any headline features, although it should be said that generally these patches are all about the fixes. Meanwhile, many of you are probably wondering about fleet carrier interiors. These are set to make an appearance in Update 11, and Frontier have said that these are still scheduled for that update. However, there's no release date just yet for that, but it does seem that it's very likely February is a reasonable guess, early March I suppose otherwise. Now before I get any further into this video, here's a quick apology for any of the quality issues you may notice here. There might be some issues with the footage capture, the rendering or audio issues. Basically, what this is all down to is I'm currently in the middle of a house move, so things are pretty much all over the place. Getting a video together isn't quite as easy as it usually is, but here we are nonetheless. So, Update 10. This is all about fixes and optimizations. Frontier has broken this down into various sections: performance optimizations, rendering fixes, stability improvements, and so on. The patch notes are fairly extensive, so I won't go through those line by line. Instead, here are a few highlights that stood out to me. So Frontier have detailed a total of 7 optimization improvements. You can see these listed on the screen right here. Generally, it seems that performance in Odyssey continues to improve patch by patch. One thing that wasn't on the list, however, one thing that was not there, is improvements to the fire rendering. As pointed out by the community over the previous weeks, fire effects are certainly causing particular problems with frame rates, and this is something that Frontier are aware of and are still looking into. Elsewhere, you may remember that the previous update, Update 9, included a number of rather large bugs. Notably, hostile ships were not appearing as hostile on the radar. This has been in the way for quite a few weeks now. People have had to put up with this for quite a while, but finally it has now been fixed. The other large problem was the inability to scan dead NPCs at offline settlements. This has also been fixed. The update then contained numerous other fixes and improvements. For the full list, do check out the link in the video description. Of course, the patch also brought with it a few problems, and that seems to be the regular thing to be expected, although there's no significant ones this time around, although it seems that way at the moment. Most notable of the issues was the inability to purchase limpiers. Frontier have since fixed this, however, with a server-side update, so they got that one out there pretty quick. Overall then, Update 10 has been a fairly small update. We should perhaps keep in mind, however, that generally speaking, these updates are not about delivering new content. Instead, they are about improving the overall experience. Update 11, of course, will be delivering new content in the form of fleet carriers. No information on what will be happening further in the year, so pretty much fleet carrier interiors is the last available update that we have knowledge of at the moment for 2022. Maybe there'll be something further into the year. Let's hope it's something pretty interesting. Now, talking of future and current content, it really does feel as though things have been very quiet these past few months. Update 9, of course, was fairly large, introducing the new Scorpion SRV. However, beyond that, news has been pretty thin on the ground. The next development update should still hopefully be arriving before the end of this month. The last one of those was in October, so that's a pretty huge gap between the respective development updates. Meanwhile, I'm sure people in the comments section are going to be asking about news on the console version of Odyssey. Unfortunately, nothing new has been mentioned about this just yet, which means development on that, as far as we know, still remains on hold. In other news, I want to briefly touch on Frontier's share prices. There's been a pretty big change here, and this happened early on in January. Now, I don't normally talk about share prices too often, usually only when something significant happens. So you'll probably remember that back in November, Frontier's share value took a massive drop from £25 per share down to £17 per share. That happened in a 24-hour period. Over the next 6 weeks or so, the shares have failed to recover. And then on the 12th of January, the shares took a further hit, dropping down to £13 per share. The company's current share value is now around half of its value compared to back in September of 2021. So, what caused this second value drop? Well, this seems to be due to lower than expected earnings. Additionally, the upcoming Warhammer Age of Sigmar game has seen a delay, pushing it back to later in 2023. Also, Frontier have stated that Lemnis Gate, released by their publishing arm, Frontier Foundry, also sold a relatively low number of copies. So all of these different factors seem to have combined together to have a negative effect on the overall share price. All of this information comes from Frontier's latest financial report, which you can find linked in the video description. The report also mentioned that Odyssey, and once again stated that the game, the update, had disappointed sales. However, they also stated that community sentiment towards Odyssey has started to improve, so at least there's that. So that brings us to the end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.